Hey everybody, today I was going to upload a roast with me video. However, as we enjoy our 2 days of summer in the UK, the camera overheated because it got very hot in here as I was roasting and I lost the video about halfway through, which is a bummer. So instead, I thought it would be a good time to go back through all the comments, questions that people have sent me or left on the videos and round up all the technical ones and then try and answer them to the best of my ability for you today. If you have other questions, please don't be afraid to ask them. Leave me a comment down below and let me know what's bothering you in your coffee roasting journey or your new business journey. I don't promise to know everything, but I'll do my absolute best to tell you what I do know. So question number one, how do we develop new coffee blends or roasts? Well, the first thing we do is we get a list from our wholesale green bean supplier, and that list has everything that they've got in stock and then everything that they've got afloat, meaning it's on a boat and it's coming over to the UK as we speak. And we look through these lists and we filter them first. So we like to pick coffees that are an SCA score of 83 to 85 or above, generally speaking. The bar for specialty coffee is 80, and we found that anything in that 83, 85 or more range is pretty good. We get a distinctive flavor, aroma coming through in the beans that I think makes the coffee a little bit more special. So that's the first thing that we do. Once we've got 4 or 5 that we like the look of, we get samples sent out to us and then we cup them at home. Myself and my wife Tash will do that usually whilst our son's at school. And we'll try all of the samples that we've got and we score them. We usually blind taste test them. So we don't know which coffee is which because we found that if we do, we tend to have a bit of a bias for what we think will be our favorite. We both score them. We use the SCA cupping sheet to do that so that it's a standardized process. And we rank the coffees based on their score and we come to a consensus on which ones we think are the best. Once we've done that, then we'll order it. How do we manage the lineup of coffee? So this builds on the previous question, and it's a good question because as a small micro roasters, we don't have a lot of space, as you can see. Therefore, it's difficult to manage a good variety for the customer to choose from whilst also being able to get it all stored in here and make it work functionally in the space that we have available to us. So over summer, towards the end of summer, in fact, we will select a decaf and then we'll bring that one out and release that. That will be our 5th coffee. So for example, we might blend the decaf with the Colombian or the Ethiopian Brazil, etc., create a half calf blend, or we might blend the Brazil, Colombia, something like this, and create a different kind of blend, perhaps an espresso specific blend or something like that. So basically, we try to pick coffees that we love first and foremost. We use those as raw ingredients, if you like, and we try and cook as many delicious coffees as we possibly can from those ingredients. That allows us to increase the amount of variety that we offer our customers without increasing the amount of stock that we have to hold on hand at any one time. Can every bean be roasted to every level of intensity? And are some beans best at one type of roast or another? I think this is a question that's down to preference more than anything else. In simple terms, yes, any bean can be roasted to any level of doneness, let's say. So when you see a light coffee or medium coffee or a dark coffee, for example, in the supermarket or at the cafe, that's just referring to how long the beans have spent in the roaster. Dark roasted coffee is very common in Starbucks, for example. You'll see it. You can usually tell a dark roast coffee because it's gone through second crack, meaning all the oils inside the bean can escape it. So dark roasted coffees tend to be very shiny. They have the oily coating on the surface of them. And of course, they're extremely dark in color, if not appearing sometimes almost black. They're characterized by a very deep caramel, almost burnt sugar kind of flavor. Some people love that. It tends to be much better in milky drinks like lattes and cappuccinos because it's such a bold and bitter flavor that the creaminess of the milk helps to mellow out a little bit. Medium roast coffees are your standard brown to dark brown. A lot of our coffees are solid medium in color. And then light roasted coffees are somewhat of a new trend that's come about since we've been able to start logging so much data out of the roasters and therefore control the roast much better. We're able to gently roast coffees for the requisite amount of time, but keeping them very, very light. So you get much, much higher, sweeter acidity, floral notes out of the coffee. It's an acquired taste for sure, but a bit like how when you start drinking whiskey or beer or something like this, the more you drink of the standard stuff, the more you start to crave some of the more interesting flavors and specialty offerings that are out there. Are sunbeans best at one type of roast or another? That's the personal preference part. Does declining rate of rise work for all profiles, and do I have different profiles for different beans? Scott Rao popularized declining rate of rise because the idea is that as you're roasting coffee, you want to be slowing down the progress of that coffee as you come to the end of the roast. And as a standard goal, declining rate of rise across all coffees should lead to a good result. So yes, I do use it as my starting point for all of the coffees that I roast. I find it to be very reliable. However, the rate at which the rate of rise changes varies coffee by coffee. So for each bean that I roast, I have to go through it a few times. I usually use my sample roaster first so I don't waste so much coffee. That only takes 500 grams versus 3.5 kilos in the main shop roaster. And I'll roast it a few times. I get a feel for the beans, and then I'll denote special markers to myself that tell me, is the roast progressing as I expect? So I expect dry end to happen at a certain time. I expect the first crack to start at a certain time, and I expect the beans to finish within the total amount of time and then have a certain weight at the end from the moisture content loss that happens throughout the roasting process. So for these next questions, they're not quite technical, but I thought they were quite fun, and I'll tell you a bit more about myself and then how I like to drink coffee. So the first question is, what is my favorite roast we sell and how do I like my coffee prepared? The favorite coffee that we sell has to be the Hinderwell blend. It's the very first coffee we released with the new roaster released, and it's 65% Colombia, 35% Ethiopia. I find Colombia extremely aromatic and jammy and fruity and sweet as a coffee. The Ethiopia is much more mellow. I've got a theory that I can't really prove because I don't have the equipment, but I've got a theory. The Ethiopia has a high oil content, which leads to, it's a horrible word, but a nice mouth feel. It feels smooth when you drink it. And I think blending just a little bit of that Ethiopia with a little bit of that Colombia really mellows some of those intense jammy flavors from the Colombia out a little bit and creates a much more rounded coffee. So I love that one. It's by far my favorite. I love all the coffees as their own origins, but the Hinderwell is probably my favorite. And how do I like it prepared? For me, I truly love it always, and it depends what I'm in the mood for. If I had to pick one, I would say a pour over. I use a Chemex, and if it's a nice Sunday morning and I've got a little bit of time, I don't think there's anything better than making a pour over coffee. I think it's the cleanest cup of coffee that can be made. And for the Hinderwell blend, for example, it's so aromatic that the smell, the aroma, the taste is just perfect. So Hinderwell blend in a pour over, that's my happy place. What trends in the coffee industry do I think are overhyped? I don't buy into this, you should only drink certain coffees a certain way. I think it's a deeply personal matter how you like to drink your drinks, and no one should dictate that for you. And I think the industry's almost overcorrected a little bit in recent years and moved towards this high level of elitism, which I think is a bit unfair, and it puts a lot of people off from getting into drinking specialty coffee and just enjoying it for what it is. So my vote is, if you like to drink an espresso blend coffee in a cafetiere or a pour over, and you like a coffee that says it's for milk without milk and vice versa, you do you. If instant coffee is your favorite coffee, fine, enjoy it, because that's what life is about. I've said enough on the matter. I also think light roast is a bit overdone, and I'm not sure there's a really good definition of what light roast really means. I bought a coffee recently from another coffee roasters, I won't say who, and it was advertised as being a light roast, and I poured it out in front of me, and it was the most medium roast I think I've ever seen. So I feel like there's a trend of calling something a light roast because it sounds more exotic and more interesting, and I don't know if it's on purpose or just out of ignorance, but it's definitely not a light roast. So I think probably even my definition of a light roast is my definition. I'm not sure if there's a really global one. I know that in America you can buy coffee color charts that help you. I might get one actually, and see how useful it is, but it tells you the different gradings of the colors of the coffee. So you can see, dark roast, medium roast, and there's like 10 different kinds of medium roast. So I think there is some guidance out there, but anyway, I think people are getting it wrong. Last but not least, are there emerging trends in the industry that I am particularly excited about? I think I'm really interested in how people are going super eco. Not necessarily because of the eco side of it. Yeah, that's important, but I think we have to all accept that the coffee that we're drinking has been shipped on a boat around the world because England is very far away from Colombia and wherever else. So that is by far and away probably the most CO2 creating process out there. And by the time you get to the roaster and you're burning a little bit of gas just to roast the coffee in like 12 to 14 minutes, it's a drop in the ocean, no pun intended. So I think the ship has sailed, I'm full of the puns, on whether coffee is ecologically friendly or not. And to some extent, we have to accept that. I am interested, though, that these eco-friendly ways of roasting are introducing new techniques and processes that are probably going to be better. I would love to explore it if I had loads of money and loads of time. So, for example, you can get roasters that just heat on like air, basically. They're electric roasters, they don't use a gas flame. Loads of interesting things happening, and that excites me because it's new and different and completely modern. So that's it. If you've enjoyed this today, let me know. Leave me a like or a comment, even better. Tell me what you're working on, what you're thinking about, questions you have. And if you want to see more, of course, don't forget to subscribe. All right, see you next time.